Well, here's something you don't see every day. Sure, a bent, messed up gate held up with baler twine. That's not that uncommon. But the hinge is broken. That you don't see every day. Fortunately, there's an abandoned hinge right there. Just a matter of switching around. Well, my self-adjusting pipe wrench didn't want to grab, so we're using a more traditional method. It's going to take a while, but it'll work. Here's a little tip. Odds are, wherever you're working on the gate, you've got some sort of equipment around you that might have grease on it. So get you a little bit of grease. Doesn't have to be clean. Put it on those threads to help you slide into that hole a little bit. Now, if your hole is fresh, you might have to give your hinge a little bit of a tappy tap tap with a hammer. You can see this has got some history to it. To get it started, this hole has been around for a little while, so I could just start it by hand. For turning this big screw, you can do a little bit by hand maybe, if it's a nice worn out hole like this, but at some point it's going to be really hard to turn. So you have a couple choices. Big box wrench gives you a good bit of leverage on it, and that's convenient for the top hinge. The bottom hinge down here gets to be a pain because you hit the ground with it, and so then you got to swing around, and it's just not nearly as nice. Or you might find a nice big socket like this that has a notch out of it that fits on, and if you have two hands, you can turn it really easily with a breaker bar or a ratchet or even an impact driver. I worry a little bit about the impact driver when you're really burying it in there, if it's going to blow this thing apart. But if you're using power tools, you're wearing safety glasses anyway, so you should be all right. All right, now let's talk about how this part of the hinge is going to interact with this part. We like this pointed down at the top versus up at the bottom, because then when you slide your hinge on, it's locked. The horses can't just lift the whole gate up. Now you've got to be able to slide the hinge up and keep it there, and we have this extra bolt in to hold it in place, because friction fit doesn't fit and it slides down. And that was all well and good when the gate was new and straight, but it's not. So we're going to try to get it on there as best we can, and then maybe lean on it a little bit to straighten it, but it's never going to be perfect again. So this is where the magic happens, when you're trying to get this part of the hinge lined up with that, because you've got to be able to lift the gate up, and the gate is long and heavy, and if you got a partner, oh man, easy peasy, get them to lift it up, then you line things up over here and get it together. But if you don't have a partner, or you're your own partner, you got to improvise. So I've got this end of the gate held up with the chain. Worked out where it's a little too high, but that's okay. I can finagle this in there. It's not going to be straight. The hinge is going to be cocked, but it'll at least get on, and then we can straighten it out from there. There's the magic of getting it on crooked. The end of the gate is still being held up. When we release it, obviously it's going to move that way. It's going to straighten things out. Hopefully we can finagle it around so we get the holes lining up, and I don't have to drill a new hole because I didn't bring my drill. One of the important little tricks too, when you're trying to get this to slide up, if you have your wrench, you can bang in there. It's a whole lot easier than trying to hit the edge with a hammer and fight that edge. You just tap it up there, get it into position. I'm going to snug the bolt a little bit before I let it down, because what I don't want is when I lift up the other end to release the chain, I don't want there to be enough slack that this drops off and then I got to start over. Unfortunately, I guess because the hinge is different, or because everything's been shocked a little bit, there's no way I'm going to get that hole to line up with that hole there. So I'm going to tighten this bolt fairly snug to hopefully hold it long enough for me to go up, get my drill, and Swiss cheese in here again. The problem is, the more you tighten this one, as it crimps down on the gate, it will start to spread in here, unless you have a good one that's welded inside. I can't tell if this one is or not. And also, once you start compressing the tube, it just doesn't fit right. And the thing is, you got to remember, this particular hinge, gravity wants to pull it down off of the pin. So it's got to be on there snug. And there's nothing to catch it to keep it from sliding. So it'll work for now, and then I'll get another bolt in it later. But the gate does swing, sort of. So there it is, back together for now. There is a good bit of detail work in getting gates leveled by adjusting the hinges. If the top one, if you push it out, it drops the end of the gate, or if you make it tighter in, it lifts the other end. I'm not going to get too tied up with this because the gate is not very straight to begin with. The bottom hinge is kind of stuck where it is. I'm not going to touch that. And this gate also has the kind of impossible task of having to open uphill. So even if it was level, it can only go so far. And the way it's bent actually helps it with that because it lifts the far end up. So I think this is as good as it's going to get for now until it gets wrecked again. It took a lot of force to snap this. I mean, that's probably 9/16 diameter. It's no wonder the gate's so beat up.